I found her near the pond that afternoon, alone, in a torn wedding dress, her wheelchair half buried in the grass, mascara running down her cheeks like ink in the rain. I thought I was hearing my own grief echo back when she whispered, "He didn't come." I didn't know it then, but that moment, between her heartbreak and my silence, was the start of everything that would change us both. It was one of those quiet fall afternoons when the air smells faintly of wood smoke and the trees look like they're on fire. I'd promised my daughters, Avery and Chloe, that we'd come back to the park, the one their mom loved most. It had been 2 years since the accident, and I still wasn't sure if visiting helped or just hurt in a quieter way. But keeping her memory alive mattered. We spread our old checkered blanket near the pond. The girls started unpacking sandwiches and cookies I'd burned slightly that morning. They chattered about ducks and school, and for a moment, it almost felt normal. Then I heard it, a sound that didn't belong there. Not laughter, not conversation. It was crying. The kind that comes from deep inside a person when they've got nothing left to hold on to. At first, I tried to ignore it. I thought maybe whoever it was wanted to be alone, the same way I had when I lost my wife. But it wouldn't stop. The sound of someone's heart breaking doesn't blend into the background. It demands to be heard. "Daddy, do you hear that?" Avery tugged on my sleeve, her curls catching the sunlight. "I do, sweetheart." I looked over at the girls, both sitting cross-legged on the blanket, eyes full of worry. "Stay here, okay? I'll check on them. Don't move from this spot." They nodded, and I followed the sound through the trees. The leaves crunched under my shoes, and the crying grew louder until I rounded a clump of flowering bushes and stopped cold. There, in the shade near the pond, sat a young woman in a wheelchair. She was wearing a wedding dress. The skirt was wrinkled and stained with dirt, the veil thrown aside like it didn't matter anymore. Her face was buried in her hands, and her shoulders shook with every sob. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there for a second, the whole scene hitting me like a punch to the chest. I'd seen grief before, my own, my daughter's, but this was different. This was fresh, raw, unbearable. I cleared my throat softly. "Excuse me, are you okay?" Her head jerked up, eyes red and swollen, mascara streaked down her cheeks. She looked terrified that someone had found her like this. I'm fine," she said quickly, voice cracking. "I'll leave. I'm sorry." "Hey, don't apologize," I said gently. "You're not bothering anyone. I just wanted to make sure you're all right." She hesitated, trying to pull herself together. "I'm Serena," she finally said, her voice small and shaky. "I'm Chris," I replied, kneeling a bit so we were eye level. "I don't mean to pry, but it looks like something really bad happened." Her lips trembled. For a second, I thought she wouldn't answer. Then she whispered, "He didn't show up." I frowned. "Who didn't?" "My fiancé." The word barely made it out before her chin quivered again. "He didn't come to the wedding." The air seemed to go still. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. She nodded, staring at her lap. Everyone was there. The guests, the priest, the photographers. I waited for an hour. People started whispering, checking their phones. I kept pretending everything was fine, like maybe he was just late. Then my phone buzzed. She let out a bitter laugh that wasn't really a laugh. "He sent me a text. Said he couldn't do it. Said he needed someone complete." Her voice broke on the last word. "Not a liability." My stomach turned. "He said that." She nodded, her hands shaking. 8 months ago, I was in an accident. I can't walk anymore. And I guess that made me too much for him. I didn't know this woman, but in that moment, I felt her pain like it was my own. Losing someone hurts. Being abandoned because of who you are, that's something else entirely. "I don't even know why I came here," she whispered, wiping her face with trembling hands. "I just couldn't go home. I needed somewhere quiet to think. Somewhere beautiful." "You picked the right spot," I said softly. This was my wife's favorite place too. She looked up, curious despite herself. I nodded. "She passed away 2 years ago. Car accident." Something in her expression changed. The pity I expected never came. Instead, it was understanding. That silent recognition between two people who've both lost something they can never get back. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "Yeah," I said, my voice low. "Me too." We sat there in silence for a long time, the wind stirring the leaves above us, two strangers connected by the kind of pain that doesn't need explaining. She didn't say anything for a while after that. Her eyes were fixed on the pond, but she wasn't really looking at it. I could tell she was replaying everything in her head. The walk down the aisle that never happened, the whispers, the text message that shattered her world in one sentence. When she finally spoke again, her voice was quiet, almost flat. You know what's funny? He told me it didn't matter. Said he'd stand by me no matter what happened. Said love wasn't about walking. It was about being together. And I believed him. Every word. She gave a short, humorless laugh. I was an idiot. You weren't an idiot, I said, shaking my head. You just trusted someone who didn't deserve it. She looked at me, her eyes glistening with fresh tears. I thought if I just kept being understanding, if I stayed patient, he'd remember what we had before the accident. But he just got colder. Every day, he'd find something new to complain about. How much harder his life was now. How everything took longer. Like I was some kind of burden he didn't sign up for. Her words hit me hard. I'd seen people crumble under grief, but this was different. This was someone who'd been made to feel like less than human. I took a breath. People show you who they are when life gets hard. The ones who stay, those are the real ones. She wiped her face roughly, leaving faint smudges of makeup on her sleeve. That's easy for you to say. You don't know what it's like to have no one. I hesitated, then said quietly, I might know a little. She glanced at me, curious. My wife died 2 years ago. It was sudden. A driver ran a red light. I didn't even get to say goodbye. I paused, staring down at my hands. We had twin girls, Avery and Chloe. They were 5 back then. I've been raising them alone ever since. Her expression softened. I'm sorry. That must have been hard, I said, finishing the thought for her. Yeah, most days it still is. But you keep moving because you have to. For them. She studied me for a long moment, like she was trying to picture what that kind of life looked like. You still come here to remember her? Every year, I said. This was her favorite place. She used to bring the girls here to feed the ducks. They still think she's watching us from somewhere above, and maybe she is. I hope she is. For the first time, Serena smiled. Just barely, but it was there. She sounds like she was amazing. She was, I said, the words catching in my throat. And she'd hate what that man did to you. She believed kindness was the only thing in this world that mattered. Serena looked down at her lap again. Kindness feels like a luxury sometimes. Like something you lose when life kicks you too many times. I crouched beside her wheelchair, so we were eye level again. You didn't lose it. You're still here, Serena. After everything, you're still standing, or sitting, whatever word you want to use, but you didn't quit. That takes more strength than most people have. Her jaw trembled. Then why do I feel like I've been punished for loving someone? Because the wrong people make us question the right parts of ourselves? I said quietly. But that doesn't mean you were wrong to love. She exhaled shakily, staring at the pond again. I was in foster care my whole life. No parents, no real family. He was the first person who made me feel like I belonged somewhere. Like I wasn't just a guest in other people's lives. She paused, voice cracking. So when he left, it wasn't just a breakup. It was like being abandoned all over again. I felt my chest tighten. You're not alone now, I said. Not today. Her eyes filled again. Why do you care so much? You don't even know me. I thought about that for a second. Because I know what it feels like to be at the edge of the world and not know if you've got the strength to keep going. And because I had people who helped me crawl back. So maybe this is me returning the favor. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The air between us felt heavy but calm, like the storm was finally passing. Then she whispered, Thank you, Chris. Don't thank me, I said softly. Just promise you'll keep showing up tomorrow and the day after that. She nodded, still crying. But the tears seemed different now, less from despair, more from release. Somewhere behind us, I heard Avery call out, Daddy, are you okay? Her small voice broke the spell. I turned, waved to her. Yes, sweetheart. I'll be right there. When I looked back, Serena was trying to compose herself, dabbing at her cheeks with the corner of her dress. You should go, she said quietly. Your girls need you. I shook my head. We've got time. And for the first time since my wife's death, I actually meant it. Just as I was about to say something else, the bushes behind me rustled. A second later, 2 small heads popped through the leaves. Avery and Chloe, both wide-eyed and guilty. I told you two to stay on the blanket, I said, trying to sound stern, but it came out softer than I meant. Avery pointed at Serena. We heard crying, Daddy. We wanted to help. Serena quickly wiped her face again, embarrassed. Oh no, it's okay. I didn't mean to scare you girls. Chloe stepped closer, clutching a juice box like it was a peace offering. Why are you crying in a princess dress? The question was so innocent it made Serena laugh. A small, broken sound that carried more healing than she probably realized. It was supposed to be my wedding dress, she said gently. But the person I was going to marry didn't show up. Avery gasped. He didn't come? That's really mean. Yeah, Chloe said, frowning. That's the meanest thing ever. You should have married someone nice instead. Serena smiled at that, though her eyes glistened again. I think you're right. I watched my girls with quiet awe. They didn't see a woman in a wheelchair. They saw someone sad who needed kindness. And somehow, that simple purity did more for Serena in 30 seconds than all my sympathy ever could. Avery looked up at me, her voice bright. Daddy, can she come sit with us? We still have sandwiches and cookies. Serena blinked, clearly unsure. Oh no, I couldn't. You'd be doing us a favor, I interrupted. They made me pack way too much food. Please, join us. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, just for a little while. I helped her maneuver her wheelchair over the grass, careful not to let the wheels sink into the soft ground. The girls immediately sat on either side of her like she was already part of the family. Within minutes, they were telling her about school, their dog who only listens half the time, and the names they'd given the ducks that hang around the pond. Serena listened like their stories were the most important thing she'd ever heard. And for the first time that afternoon, her shoulders relaxed. The tightness in her face eased. She even laughed, a real, honest laugh that seemed to surprise her. We ate together on that blanket, the four of us. The girls shared their cookies, proudly offering the ones that were the least burned. Serena tried the juice boxes and told them it was the best picnic drink she'd ever had. And when Avery showed her how to toss bread just right so the shy ducks in the back got some too, Serena smiled so wide it made something loosen in my chest. After a while, she turned to me. Your girls are incredible, you know that? Yeah, I said quietly. They get it from their mom. Her smile softened. She must have been special. She was, I said, looking out at the pond. She always said kindness doesn't cost anything, but it changes everything. I think she'd like what's happening here today. Serena nodded. She'd be proud of them. And of you. That caught me off guard. I hadn't heard words like that in a long time. Not since before the accident. I looked at Serena, this woman who'd been crushed just hours ago, and realized how strong she was simply for being here, for talking, for not shutting down completely. The sun dipped lower, painting the water in gold. Avery leaned against Serena's arm and whispered something that made her laugh again. Chloe was busy naming another duck, Gregory the Brave. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt something I hadn't dared to feel. Peace. When Serena finally looked up at me, there was a calmness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Thank you, Chris, she said softly, for not walking away. I smiled. I've done enough walking away in my life. I think it's time I start showing up. She held my gaze for a long moment, then nodded. Maybe today was supposed to happen. Maybe it was, I said. We sat there until the sun sank behind the trees, a widower, his daughters, and a woman who thought she'd lost everything. All of us, in our own ways, trying to find our way back to something that felt like hope. 3 days passed before I heard from her again. It was a Wednesday evening, and I was in the kitchen, half focused on making spaghetti while the girls argued about who got to set the table. The phone rang, and when I saw the name flash across the screen, Serena Miller, I stopped stirring the sauce. Hey, I answered, wiping my hands on a towel. Serena, you okay? There was a pause on the other end, like she had to gather the courage to speak. Hi, Chris. Sorry to call out of the blue. I just wanted to say thank you. I leaned against the counter. You don't have to thank me. I do, she said quietly. You and your girls, you have no idea what that day meant to me. I think if I hadn't met you, I might have just given up. Her voice cracked, and I could hear how real that was. I didn't interrupt. Then she said something that made me smile. I found a support group for people with spinal injuries. The first meeting's tomorrow. I'm nervous, but I'm going to go. That's incredible, I told her, and I meant it. That takes guts. I kept thinking about what you said, she went on softly. About still being here. That has to mean something, right? It means everything, I said. It means you didn't let life win. She laughed, a little shaky but lighter. We ended up talking for almost an hour about nothing and everything. Her therapy sessions, the ducks at the park, the new book she'd been reading, my daughter's latest art projects. It felt easy, like catching up with someone I'd known forever. When we finally hung up, I realized I was smiling. The kind of smile that reaches your eyes and stays there. The next few weeks, we kept in touch. Sometimes she called. Sometimes I did. The conversations got longer, warmer, easier. She told me the support group was helping, how she'd met people who understood, who didn't look at her with pity. She'd even started volunteering at the local library, helping organize digital archives from home. Then one Saturday morning, I asked if she'd like to meet us at the park again. Same spot, I said. The girls keep asking about you. They even made a list of books they think you'd like. Serena laughed. Your daughters are dangerous. I might leave with homework. That afternoon, she rolled up to the park in her wheelchair, looking stronger. Not just physically, there was something different about her eyes. Less lost. The girls ran straight to her, no hesitation. Avery handed her a 3-page list titled Books Rena Might Love. She'd shortened Serena's name without asking, and somehow it fit perfectly. Chloe gave her a drawing of the 4 of us sitting by the pond, feeding ducks. You drew me? Serena said, her voice trembling. Yeah, Chloe said proudly. Purple shirt, because purple is for special people. I saw Serena bite her lip, try not to cry. Thank you, sweetheart. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. That day became the first of many. Every Saturday, we met at the park. Some days we brought lunch. Other days we just talked while the girls played. Serena told me about her progress, the new therapy exercises, the recipes she was learning, the moments when she finally felt like herself again. It wasn't dramatic. There were no fireworks or sudden confessions. Just small, quiet moments that added up to something real. The kind of healing that sneaks up on you until one day you realize you're not surviving anymore. You're living. One night, about 2 months after that first phone call, Serena came over for dinner. The girls had decorated the living room with "Welcome Rena" signs and balloons. Serena laughed until tears ran down her cheeks. This is too much, she said. Avery grinned. It's not enough. And that was the moment I knew. Somehow, without any plan or intention, this woman had become part of our world. Not as a guest, as family. 6 months after that day in the park, Serena and I sat together on my porch after the girls had gone to bed. The night was calm, one of those rare evenings where the air feels still enough to hold your thoughts. She was quiet, staring out at the yard while the porch light traced gold along her hair. I think about that day a lot, she said softly. The day we met. How close I came to giving up. Me too, I admitted. I almost didn't get up from that blanket. If I'd stayed with the girls, we might have never crossed paths. But we did, she said, reaching for my hand. And it changed everything. I squeezed her hand gently. Chloe said something that day, remember? She said maybe the universe puts people in our path when we need each other the most. Serena smiled. Your daughter's a wise little philosopher. She gets it from her mom, I said. There was a long pause, then Serena whispered, Chris, I love you. I love you and those girls. You've given me something I didn't think I'd ever have again, a reason to belong. My chest tightened, and before I knew it, I was smiling like an idiot. You just beat me to it. I've been trying to find the right way to say it, but yeah, I love you too. You've made this house feel like home again. That night, under a quiet sky, we kissed for the first time. No fireworks, no dramatic music, just 2 people who'd survived enough heartbreak to know what real love feels like when it finally shows up. A year later, Serena moved into an accessible apartment just 10 minutes from us. She'd started working remotely for a library network, doing digital cataloging, a job that suited her perfectly. She came over most mornings for breakfast, helped with homework, and showed up to every school play, dance recital, and parent-teacher meeting. The girls called her Rena now, and it stuck. She was family, not a replacement for their mom, but a new chapter in our story, the kind that adds instead of replaces. Another year passed, and she moved in for good. The house changed. It wasn't just mine anymore. It smelled like her lavender candles and her cinnamon tea. There was laughter again, warmth, music. My daughters thrived, and for the first time since my wife died, I felt like we were living instead of coping. 3 years to the day after we met, I asked the girls to help me with something special. We spent a week planning, whispering, hiding things from Serena. That evening, we sat in the backyard. The stars were out, bright and close, and she looked peaceful. My hands were shaking, but not from nerves, from the weight of what I was about to do. Hey, I said, sitting beside her. Remember when you told me you thought you'd lost everything? She nodded slowly. You were wrong, I said, pulling out the small box I'd kept hidden in my pocket. You hadn't lost everything. You were just clearing space for something better. Her eyes filled instantly. Chris, these 3 years with you have reminded me what love really means. You've shown my girls what strength looks like, and you've shown me that happiness doesn't have to die with grief. It just changes shape. I opened the box. Serena Miller, will you marry me? She covered her mouth with both hands, tears spilling over. But this time they weren't sad. They were full of life. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times yes. From the upstairs window, Avery and Chloe pressed their faces against the glass, squealing before we even had time to hug. The wedding was small. Close friends, Serena's support group family, my coworkers, and of course, 2 junior bridesmaids in purple dresses. When Serena came down the aisle, I didn't see the wheelchair. I saw the woman who saved me when I didn't even know I needed saving. And when she reached me, I whispered, "You're perfect." She smiled through tears. So are you. When the ceremony ended, Avery yelled, "Finally!" and the whole room erupted in laughter. 1 month later, we returned to the park. The same spot, the same blanket, but everything was different. Serena had baked cookies this time. The girls brought books and bread for the ducks. Remember when we met here? She said, gazing at the pond. Like it was yesterday, I said. You were crying in a wedding dress. She laughed. And now I'm here wearing one that actually meant something. Avery wrinkled her nose. It's like destiny. Maybe it is, I said, pulling them all close. Some of the worst days lead to the best ones. Family isn't about who's there from the start. It's about who shows up when everything falls apart. Serena leaned her head against my shoulder. I thought I'd lost everything that day. But really, I just made room for my real family. I kissed her hair and looked at the girls feeding ducks, the sun dancing on the water. And I thought I'd lost my chance at happiness. Turns out, love just needed a second chance. We sat there in silence. 4 people, all broken in different ways once, now whole together. The same park where grief brought us together had become the place where love kept us whole. And that's the funny thing about life. Sometimes, the universe doesn't take from you to punish you. It just clears your path for what's meant to be.